in their interactions because, again, this is not very complicated stuff to understand. But people in the media and also liberals on mainstream liberal media, they're reading this incorrectly as per usual because they don't understand how anything works. So I'm going to explain to you guys exactly what I believe happened during this meeting. But first, I
Yeah.
want to go ahead and play some
I just started
highlights
though. No one's
of
here.
this meeting so that people can get a feel for the questions that were asked and just how this meeting went down. Take a look.
Well, thank you very much. We've just had a
Okay.
great
I just wanted
meeting,
to look
a
at
really
this.
good, very productive meeting. We have one thing in common. We want this city of ours that we love to do very well. And I wanted to congratulate the mayor. He really ran an incredible race against, a lot of smart people, starting with the early primaries against some very tough people, very smart people. And he beat them easily. And I congratulated him. And we talked about some things in very strong common, like housing and getting housing built, and food and prices, and the price of oil is coming way down.
You asked about your comment calling the president a fascist, and your answer was, both President Trump and I have been clear about our positions and our views. Are you affirming that you think President Trump is a fascist?
I've spoken about.
That's okay. You can just say yes.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's easier.
Yes.
It's easier than explaining it. I don't mind.
And President, I wanted to ask you a
protesters.
Jack?
Mr. President, I want to know one of the policies as well that Mayor-elect Mondami talked a number of times about on the campaign was shifting the tax burden for property taxes from what he called minority communities to white-based communities and putting more taxes on white people. I also noticed that in your acceptance speech you didn't mention anything about America or Christians or white people in general, and so I didn't know if that was one of the policies that you guys had spoken about.
We focused on affordability. We focused on the cost of living crisis. What I will say is that I am very much interested in property tax reform because what we see right now in New York City is a system that is so inequitable that it can't even stand up in court. And the president and I spoke about the importance of not only building more housing, but also making sure that regulation of housing is something that is manageable to actually get through and not the cause of yet another weight that we see in our
But to be
city.
clear, you're continuing this idea of race-based property taxes.
No, to be very clear,
What you said.
no, the use of the term was a description of neighborhoods, not a description of intent.
So you intend to tax the whiter neighborhoods more?
No, we intend to create a fair property tax system because we want a New York City that is not only fair and equitable, but also one that every New Yorker can afford.
Mr. Mamdani, against federal protesters this morning. It sounds like you had a productive discussion, but just days ago you referred to President Trump as a despot who betrayed the country. You said you would be his worst nightmare and accused him of having a fascist agenda. Are you planning to retract any of these remarks in order to improve your relationship?
I think both President Trump and I, we are very clear about our positions and our views, and what I really appreciate about the president is that the meeting that we had focused not on places of disagreement, which there are many, and also focused on the shared purpose that we have in serving New Yorkers. And frankly, that is something that could transform the lives of the 8.5 million people who are currently struggling under a cost of living crisis, with 1 in 4 living in poverty. And the meeting came back again and again to what it could look like to lift those New Yorkers out of struggle and start to deliver them a city that they could do more than just struggle to afford it, but actually start to live in it.
And I've been called much worse than a despot, so it's not that insulting. Maybe I think he'll change his mind after we get to working together. Yes, please.
Mr. President, you've threatened to send federal troops to New York City. You both have differences when it comes to ICE agents in New York City. Mr. Mamdani, you've called ICE a rogue government entity. I wonder how you reconcile your differences on both of those issues.
Well, I think we're going to work them out, and I think that if we have known murderers and known drug dealers and some very bad people, we want to get them out. And the mayor wants to have peace. We discussed this at great length, actually, maybe more than anything else. He wants to have a safe New York. Ultimately, a safe New York is going to be a great New York. If it's not safe, no matter how well we do with pricing and with anything else, we can talk about anything you want. If you don't have safe streets, it's not going to be a success. So we're going to work together. We're going to make sure that if there are horrible people there, we want to get them out. I think he wants to get them out maybe more than I do.
Yeah,
So
no, that's
we'll
the
work together.
look.
We discussed it at
Yo,
great
man,
length.
Dami's look is the look of someone who had a talking with a big man and the big man told him how it's going to work. He's okay with working with the big man, but the big man has put his foot down. The big man has told Mamdani, I'll help you, but it's going to be my way. That's what that look is. That's not a look of, oh, I'm going to make Donald Trump's administration, like, they're going to have a pain in the ass because of me. Yeah, nah. Not from this guy.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that. As I said at the beginning of this video, liberals are misinterpreting what they saw during this meeting and what it actually really means, because for whatever reason they believe, despite the obvious difference in power dynamics here, that somehow, some way, Zoran got over President Trump, or that Zoran made President Trump bend the knee or fold, or I don't know exactly what his liberal gluing on thought process is coming from in regards to their takeaways from this meeting, but somehow, some way, they thought
he's standing straight. That's all I'm gonna say. Trump. Who's the man in that relationship?
Look out, J.D. Vance. There's a new man in town. Zoran Mamdani has won Trump's heart. I think Donald Trump has a crush on him. First, Bubba. And now, Mamdani. You got to watch at 5 o'clock. We're going to talk about it. It was a love fest. But basically, Trump was gazing up at him like Nancy used to look at Ronald. For those of you who are old enough, you got to see it to believe it.
Baby, at this point, Zoran Mamdani needs to be studied because he is the blueprint on how the fuck you do it. Tell me how. He's not even mayor yet. Mayor-elect. He pulls up to the White House like a motherfucking pimp and had Donald Trump eating out the palms of his motherfucking hands. Give him his tens. Now, mind you, this is the same fuck-ass 47 that was calling you everything but a child of God. Now he's saying this.
I met with a man who's a very rational person. I met with a man who really wants to see New York be great again. And I can say again, because New York was great.
Mamdani, what did you do? Because DT is giddy than a bitch. I've never seen him look at anybody like this. But the biggest chef's kiss about all of this is Mamdani didn't have to change his values in order to get Donald Trump's respect.
Tell me someone doesn't know the art of making friends without telling me you don't know the art of making friends. You only know the art of making enemies. And that's this dumbass right here who doesn't know the game that Mamdani is clearly playing. And he's playing it well. Props. The only thing is he needs to live up to it, or else everyone in New York City, they will look to him and blame him for everything. Everything.
When Zoran, the self-proclaimed democratic socialist, pulled up, he got Donald Trump to agree on several policies, like affordability.
So Donald Trump just slobbered all over Zoran Mamdani. I mean, I have never seen Trump praise somebody so much. It was just a total love fest. Of course, Mamdani and Donald Trump met for the first time today in the Oval Office, and Trump was so complimentary of him. Like, after their meeting, he said, I think you're going to have a really great mayor. The better he does, the happier I am, I will say. He also said, I feel very confident that he can do a very good job.
Like, why wouldn't Donald Trump say that to a person who's running a city in America? Of course he would want and hope that he does the best. Like, what are we talking about here? Should Trump have said, oh, I hope he fails. I hope all the people of New York actually get what they want, which is the socialist utopia, which will end up failing. No, Trump knows that this will make Democrat socialists look bad if he can't fulfill his promises. So Zoran Mamdani has to be rational in order to get what he wants. Like that's oh my God, of course Trump would want him to be the best. Like, why is this why are we trying to, why would we want any of our fellow American cities to be poor? Why would we want any fellow American to struggle? We want them to be the best. How we go about it are two different ways. How we go about making things affordable are two different ways. That's what we have to hash out. But
I think he's going to surprise some conservative people, actually. A reporter then asked Donald Trump, would you feel comfortable living in New York City under a Mamdani administration because he's a billionaire? And Donald Trump said, Yeah, I would. And this is not just me, a liberal, making it up. It was so bad that Fox News even commented on it, saying, that's what we just watched. I think J.D. Vance is jealous. I think the president wants to use Mamdani as a running mate. They got along fantastic. And this is after Donald Trump has called Mamdani a communist, a socialist, all this nonsense. And he came out of that meeting saying, actually, Mamdani's focused on the right things. And
I'm pretty sure Mondani has called him a fascist, Nazi, Hitler. And he probably walked away from that meeting too thinking, wow, I can probably save the socialist democratic reputation that we know throughout all of history, how they kill people and starve people to death. I could possibly save that, I could possibly save that reputation by saying that here in America, socialist democratic values can actually work. It's like of course he's trying to change the whole the common sense around social democracy or democratic socialism. Democratic socialism is just socialism. Okay, there's nothing democratic about it, but he wants to change it into something else. He wants to give it a new name. Just like people took the N word and gave it a new name or give it a new meaning. That's what Zoran Mondani is doing. He's doing a good job. He's politicking, which is, what politicians do.
he likes him. I mean, we know that Donald Trump folds like a lawn chair when confronted in person, but I didn't expect it to be this bad. I mean, that was just stunning to watch.
Yeah, just ignorant takes, right? Just
Very
pure ignorance from liberals who, again, don't understand the damn thing at all about the world, about life, about business, about relationships. They don't understand shit.
They don't understand
And
shit.
when you don't understand shit, that is, again, what you get, right? What you just saw there is what you get. So I'm going to tell you guys my takeaway, but first I want to play one more news clip just so that people can get an idea of the
And then
mainstream
we're
media
cooked.
reaction.
And then we will
People are
cook.
genuinely surprised.
But okay, so one thing I do want to say, you guys, I had to redo my whole entire system. I had to upgrade it to Windows 11. That's the reason why none of my little icons here, like you see now, were showing. That's because I had to upgrade, and then there are some drivers because this is my desktop is a custom built, so there were some things I have to do. And now I am going to get back to this clean architecture dependency injection using for our Azure infrastructure. But I just wanted to watch this, and then we'll go back. But those have been the updates. Why I haven't been streaming lately, and plus I was doing a lot of AI artwork and open art AI. But now let's finish, and then I promise we will get back to this.
See two politicians meeting for the first time, not hating each other in public, right? So without further ado, let's get it.
Watching CBS News 24/7, and quite an extraordinary meeting in the Oval Office between President Trump and New York City Mayor-elect Zoran Mamdani. They were both very complimentary, as you heard, very civil. And this comes just weeks after the president urged voters not to vote for him in New York City's mayoral election. The president expressed hope for Mamdani's tenure as mayor. Listen.
I feel very confident that he can do a very good job. I think he's going to be. I think he is going to surprise some conservative people, actually, and some very liberal people. He won't surprise them because they already like him.
Mamdani as well, also very complimentary of Trump about their meeting this afternoon.
I appreciated the meeting with the president, and as he said, it was a productive meeting focused on a place of shared admiration and love, which is New York City, and the need to deliver affordability to New Yorkers, the 8.5 million people who call our city their home, who are struggling to afford life in the most expensive city in the United States of America. We spoke about rent, we spoke about groceries, we spoke about utilities, we spoke about the different ways in which people are being pushed out, and I appreciated the time with the president, I appreciated the conversation. I look forward to working together to deliver that affordability for New Yorkers.
CBS News political reporter Zach Hudak joining us live now. Zach, a lot of eyes on this conversation, on this meeting. You know, quite a different tone before this election. The president really now giving his stamp of approval for Mamdani, the two of them having a conversation, if you will, as opposed to prior to the election. Your thoughts and take on this?
Well, Jules, I think it was somewhat of a surprise to all of us to see how well they were getting along. But I think at the heart of that is what they said they talked about before they let the cameras in, which is making New York affordable for New Yorkers. And I think really what that illustrates is the fine line between the far-right campaign that President Trump ran and the
Far right.
Dude, Trump did not run some damn
Far right.
far-right shit. It's like, dude, just stop it. But then again, it's CBS. You know, anything that's not Democrat just happens to be far right. That's just not true. Like I said before, they just have different ways. They want affordability. And I think, you know, if we're going to be honest, if we're really going to be honest, there are people in New York who make really bad decisions. There's just people all around in America who make really bad decisions. And it's up to the other half who tend to make who tend to make better decisions or did make bad decisions in the past that have learned from it and made money. We have, well, those people feel like there's some sort of obligation on their part to help those who did make bad decisions. I think that is the main problem that has happened in America. And, you know, I guess in a way, socialism and capitalism can work, but it needs to be managed. You cannot have a whole bunch of group of people making bad decisions, wanting to suck labor and resources from those who don't. And unfortunately, those who tend to be democratic socialists, that's the route that, you know, that why they are there. They made bad decisions and they need help. But unfortunately, the only help they want to go to, you know, would be the government. And the only way the government helps people like that is by taxing the rich or taxing those who made good decisions to give to them. And I don't think that's right. It's not fair. And it's one thing if it was isolated to the rich of the rich, but it doesn't get isolated to them. As a matter of fact, they tend to escape having to pay for the bad decisions of those who tend to be on the down on the social economic pole. It's the ones in the middle who end up paying for the ones in the middle end up paying for the decisions of the, you know, the lower income. And let's just be honest, in today's America, there's no with the education that we have, there is not a single American who should be at a minimum wage job. There is just not. Like, the only ones who should be there are those who are, sorry, high schoolers who don't have, or like, you know, college kids who don't have an actual skill yet. You know, they're learning that. But as far as once you get a skill, I don't think being paid $7 an hour is where your entry at. You know, I just don't see that. If you're talking about McDonald's or fast food, yeah, okay, then yeah. But like, if you're talking about IT, if you're talking about nursing, if you're even talking about CNA, you know, they don't come in at the minimum wage if we really want to be honest about it. But, you know, I think it's because of the cost of living, on top of overregulation, on top of bad decisions, that has led us to this position. And like I said, we do want to help. I don't know a single person in America who doesn't want to help the unfortunate. It is like this theory that the Democrats have come up with, that the other side doesn't want to help you. That's just lies. We do want to help you. It's just that we're not going to help you if it costs us our arm and our leg, especially when you're already missing your arm and your leg. So it's like we just don't want to do that. And we should be, there's nothing wrong with saying that. There should be nothing wrong with saying that. I don't think you should be shot. I don't think you should be jailed. I don't think you should be canceled. And I don't think that you should be labeled as someone who's a bad person simply because you said, I only want to help up to here. After that, it's up to you. But that's how I see it.
Democratic Socialist campaign that Mamdani ran. We saw this even in the past with a lot of similarities between President Trump's campaigns and Bernie Sanders' campaigns. I think the reality here is that while they are on different ends of the political spectrum, they are both populists, and they both realize that what Americans care about most right now, and we continue to see this in the polling that we keep doing, is affordability and bringing prices down for Americans and helping everyday Americans. I think the other thing that played a factor in the two of them getting along so well is they are both extremely charismatic politicians. I think both of them,
Trump is charismatic. Mondani is
to
not.
captivate a crowd, and I think they recognize that in one another, and they recognize that there are ways that they could actually help one another. Now, there are some difficulties here. We know that House Republicans, for the most part, are gearing up to run in 2026 in the midterms, largely against Mamdani. They plan to paint their opponents as connected to this democratic socialist who is the mayor, or going to be the mayor of the largest city in the country. That does create, obviously, a tension between the way that President Trump is talking about them. We saw one of the questions from the
Yeah, but see, that is where reality is probably headed, right? Because what people don't understand, again, it's just a basic thing when it comes to business, relationships, networking, whatever, right? Especially in politics, this is true. You have shared interest, okay?
Yeah.
And despite the fact that Zohran Mamdani campaigned on me anti-Trump, and President Trump also had some things to say about Zohran Mamdani, the reality is that Zohran Mamdani needs Trump more than Trump needs Zohran Mamdani, right?
It's true.
Zohran Mamdani is already understanding that as mayor of New York City, he doesn't have any real power. He can't enact anything that he wants to do if he has Hochul not on his side, right? If he can't get the power structure, the powers that be on his side, he's not getting a damn thing done. If he doesn't have to put United States president on his side, he's not getting a damn thing done, right? So you got to understand the power structure going into this,
Exactly.
right? This is why it's so comical to watch liberals pretend as if Zohran somehow, some way got over Trump. Zohran did not get over Trump. Trump is in charge, right? He's clearly the alpha in the room, and Zohran is basically being deferential towards the president because he knows that the president has all the power.
Yeah.
That's why you're seeing Zohran say, you know what? We're not going to have socialists challenge Hakeem Jeffries yet, or we're not going to have socialists challenge Kathy Hochul yet. Now, he may endorse that in the future, but he knows right now in the immediate future that that's not helping him in what he wants to do, which he has to deliver on these big promises that he made, regardless of what.
Exactly, and that's the issue. He is literally trying to change the reputation of how democratic socialism has played out throughout the world. If you do not want what happened in places like Russia, or anywhere communism or socialism has turned up, if you don't want that to happen in America, you probably need to take different steps. And Mamdani knows this. He knows that he's the first one to come into office, and well, you also have one in Seattle that just got into office. It's a female, and you now have two people who've never had two jobs. They've never held a job at all in their life. And if I'm not mistaken, the one in Seattle, she was still living off of her parents. So you have two people who have, seem to have very little responsibility for their age to be, 30, and not have a responsibility that most of us have. But then you want to be in charge of money. You want to be in charge of a city. You want to be in charge of people housing. You want to be in charge of people healthcare. It's like, yeah, you cannot go into this position with these harebrained ideas that are just utopic in nature. They're just fairy tales that you hope to happen. No. These are things that people really want in life. And if you do not deliver socialism, democratic socialism, anything related to that, it's going to die on arrival. When it comes to any of the future candidates, it will die. It will die on arrival because he didn't come with the goods, You can't sit here and say I'm the answer and you don't come with the goods. You're gonna get replaced, bro. And anyone who comes after you who says, "Hey, I represent democratic socialists," they're gonna have they're going to have this in their brain and they're going to be like, no, we're not going to go through this again. So he's being smart. You know,
Whether or not the promises are actually good, bad, whether or not they're actually going to make life affordable, that's not really what matters. What matters is that he made these promises, right? He promised a lot of
he
free
promised
stuff.
a lot of shit,
And
bro.
free stuff ain't free, right? He knows that. His
He knows
supporters might be too stupid to know that, but he knows that. So he knows from a practical perspective that it's better for me to go into this meeting with the president and to be deferential, to be cordial, to be nice, to try to build a relationship, attempt to build a working relationship, rather than to go in and antagonize the president, to have animosity towards the president, to tell the president, I think you're a fascist, you're a terrible person, you're Hitler. That's not going to get you anywhere, right? In fact, that's the number one way to undermine your tenure as mayor from the beginning, right? From the beginning.
That's a quick way to get kicked the fuck out of my office real fast. Like, security, get him out real fast.
Right. The quickest way to make sure that you don't succeed. Does that mean in the long term that Zoran and President Trump are going to get along? No, it doesn't mean that at all. Now, from the perspective of President Trump, there's no reason for him to go into this meeting and say, oh, Zoran, you're a communist, you're a socialist, I don't agree with any of your policies, you said this about me, you said that about me, you're a terrible person. There's no advantage to doing that. Now, what was said behind closed doors?
We don't
know. I'm just talking about what they're saying publicly, right? Yeah. Because behind closed doors, they could have went at each other's throats, okay? But publicly, what they're going to show the public is obviously that, hey, we can be civil, right? We can sit down in the same room. We can discuss issues. We can disagree on things. We can agree on things. And we can talk about what we agree on and focus on the positives rather than the negatives. And that's clearly what happened here in this press conference. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, President Trump is from New York City. He wants to see New York succeed. Despite what these liberals may think, he doesn't want to see New York City fail.
Exactly.
So instinctively, he's going to want to support the mayor regardless of who the mayor is, right? He's going to want to support. He's going to want to see the city do well. They may have different ideas on how the city can do well, but they want to see the city do well. And in some cases, they probably do agree on a lot of stuff, right? President Trump does have a populist appeal, just like Zoran Mamdani. That's just the reality of our current politics. But what you're seeing from Trump in regards to how he treated Zoran Mamdani doesn't really mean anything outside of the fact that he's a businessman and he understands relationships and networking. That in an initial meeting with somebody, even a political adversary, you're not going to shit on that person. You're not going to antagonize that person when you have shared mutual interests, because the reality is that you're not going to get anything done. You're not going to accomplish anything by starting the initial meeting off on the wrong foot. Now, who knows, again, where it goes from here, but at the very least from the beginning, you have an open mind and you say, okay, I'm going to attempt to work with this person. Whether or not it actually works out in the future, that remains to be seen. But this is no different than how President Trump has approached any of his meetings or having political or foreign adversaries in the White House or meeting with political or foreign adversaries. Like, for example, when he meets Putin, when he meets Zelensky, when he met the president of Syria, a lot of people made a big deal about that. And it's like, well, what do you expect him to do? The guy is the president of Syria now. Regardless of how you feel about his past and what he's done before in the past, which obviously nobody supports, he's the president. Do you want stability in the Middle East or no?
Yeah.
Right? Because we can continue.
Yeah, and I agree. See, and that thing with me, like being going abroad a lot too, and mainly in the Middle East, it's like for me, it's very it was a very eye-opening experience. You have to understand power structure, respect business, also customs, norms, that buys you a lot of favor and understanding with the Middle East. And like the whole thing with the Syrian president, I know his background and stuff like that too. But you don't, it's like a delicate balance. We don't know what actually happened on that side of the world other than what we see from the media. I'm not going to excuse the barbarianism that came from all that ISIS stuff. I'm not going to sit here and excuse it. But at the same time, eventually we want peace in that region. We don't want people dying. We have social media now. People have phones. We have VPNs. People really wanted to get a message out. They're going to do it. And I hope that they do. However, I do think when it comes to the Middle East, there's enough dying. Or I think there should be we should just be done with it, right? You know, we should stay in our respective corners of the world and still do business. That's how I see it. I like when I go shopping, I'm not like people are not gonna like to hear this when I say this, but I've gone shopping in Kuwait and I actually prefer to shop there than I do here in America because the prices are cheaper and they have more stuff that are conservative but pretty, very girly. Whereas a lot of the stuff here in America for women that are more high class tend to be more expensive. But I do think a lot of the clothes that they sell here by default for women just show more. You can say they're girly, but I don't really see that as girly. That's more like I remember growing up where we used to think about girly things and like women things, right? Like girly is supposed to imply innocence, you know? So there's a lot more clothes like that in the Middle East that I absolutely adore that used to be here in America when we were more Christian or at least tried to be more Christian instead of just being lukewarm or fake, right? When we were more honest, that's what I would say. We were more honest. We were more honest and weren't scared to say the truth. Today, people are scared to say the truth. That's why you see what we have. We don't want to hurt people's feelings. We don't want to, I guess, rain on someone's parade, even if what they're doing is disgusting, even if what they're doing is unbecoming. Like what I mean, unbecoming of a normal, law-abiding citizen. This is what happens when we allow people to not tell the truth or be too afraid to tell the truth because it'll hurt people's feelings. It allows dysfunction, to thrive. But anyways, with saying all of this, the Middle East does have its problems. I should say the Middle East. It's more like the religion has its problems, but it's a complicated thing, y'all. You can still do business. They have banks. Like if I went, they have banks. They have every possible company you can think over here in America. They have them over there in the Middle East. They do more like in Dubai and all these other places. So if I need to go to a Chase Bank, I can go to a Chase Bank in Dubai. So it's like they understand business. They do. But you have to come with respect. You do. You have to come with respect. You have to understand the power structures. And I will even tell you this. And you have to be truthful and honest because, you might end up triggering somebody. But when I remember sitting in this conversation, I was on my vacations, like my 30-day vacation. At this point, I decided to stop. I went to Dubai and then Germany, and then Spain, not France, but Spain, then Arizona, then back to Germany, and then back to Dubai. And I did this all in a month. And I remember when I was bored in Dubai in my hotel, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go and have dinner and just talk to people because you can do that. And I didn't wear this. I had my hair out. I wore a nice conservative looking enough. Um, I guess you can call it a pant, not really a pantsuit, but it's like a romper, but it was long legs, well, fully. And then I just had like well, it was like a romper with only your back showing, and that was it. But everything else was covered all the way down to the legs. Um, and yes, you can have things like that. I wore that there. Like geez, you would be surprised the amount of skin um, that is permitted, but it has to be still conservative in those areas, right? And I remember having this dinner with a guy he was half Palestinian and half Jordanian. Yeah, he was half Jordanian, and he was talking to me about, he was like, because I was American, and he was like, "Oh man, I just came from Japan." Very, very energetic, down to earth kind of guy, right? He's like, "I've been in Japan for this amount of time, that I went to Hong Kong before it like got shut down." And he's like, he was into basically making clothes and selling it, because things out there are seen there more before it comes to America, or at least that's what they say, because they have all the fake versions of it, right? And he had asked me about what was going on, what my opinion is between Israel and Palestine and what's going on in the Middle East. And I told them, look, I don't really care too much about it, but when it comes to Palestinians, yeah, I think there is a history there. And and he was like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, I had been living in Kuwait for the past 2.5 years, so I had ended up talking to a lot of people who were there, who they were young. They still remember. They remember when Hussein, came into Kuwait, and how a lot of the Palestinians had sided with them. It was like, for them now, they say they've gotten over it. They love their Iraqi brothers, but because of what had happened and the people that had got killed, and that when Hussein had rolled up in um, Kuwait, a lot of them were kind of upset about it, that the Palestinians had sided with them. And I told him this, and he's like, I'm like, "Did you not know that?" And he was like, "Yeah, he did know that. He did know that eventually Kuwait ended up expelling the Palestinians." And I'm like, "So do you think the Kuwaitis were bad for doing that?" And he said, "No." But I'm like, they went into Jordan. And I'm like, "You're half Jordanian. You know the history of Palestinians there, right?" And he was like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Do you think it was fine for the Jordanians to kick out the bad ones?" And he said no. So it's like, then where did they go after that? They went to Lebanon. So you have a lot of people over there who look at Americans who don't know, they think that we don't know about their history, or about the history over there. And they get really surprised when we do bring up their history, but then can, delineate between the bad and the good. And when I don't know, maybe he just never talked to someone with that perspective before. And then by him basically walking through the logic himself, with me just, asking him questions, he didn't get mad. He didn't get mad at all. And he understood my side, being like, why I don't care, about what's going on over there, and why, as much as it's, when you're it's just it's such a very delicate situation, because when you're in Dubai shopping, having fun, golfing, and not even less than 1,000 miles away, people are getting it's such a weird way. It's such a weird thing to put your brain into. It just really is. So it's like, yeah, I I don't know. But anyways, with me saying all of that, I'm saying when it comes to the Middle East and peace in the Middle East, and eventually having Muslims here who might end up getting into office, we do need to understand that there is a difference between the two. And a lot of them want good business. They want to be included. So I think Maldani gets this, and hopefully, he doesn't. Hopefully, he doesn't take this olive branch and then make it sour, turn it sour in the future. Um, but usually, when we look at history and stories, sometimes the situation that person can then be a loyal individual to, like Donald Trump, but then again, it can go the other way. Um, we just have to play it out. At least we're giving Maldami, the Syrian president, as well a chance. I would want the people in Syria to at least experience something other than their buildings getting fucking toppled every few years. Bombs going off. It would be nice to see the Syrian people see something other than struggle. Like, it's like, what the fuck? Why wouldn't the president want other leaders to have their country be more successful? It just, in my opinion, it doesn't make sense. Like, why would you, like, you want them to like America, right? You want them to like Americans. You yourself want them to be able to do business with you. Like, if you're American, I would think you would want more cheaper stuff for your people. So you would at least, hey, who's willing to come up here and make some things for cheap? We'll help you, you help us, that type of stuff. And if Syria is willing to make some sort of play, be like, hey, we want some help, we're willing, we're able, we want to be in the economic sphere too, then I don't see a problem with wanting to bring them into the fold, especially if they are trying to get away from that historical barbarianism and they want to move forward. You have to give people a chance. You just do. But I don't see why people would go crazy about a world leader having diplomatic relationships with other world leaders. It just, that's part of the job description, in my opinion. But whatever.
Of an unstable Middle East, and be
Yeah, now
antagonistic towards the guy. But I just think it's better for all of our allies, for everybody involved. It's better for the United States of America to have a stable Middle East rather than to continue to have these conflicts and instability. Look at his relationship with Saudi Arabia. Look at his relationship with the Emirates. Even when he met Xi in China, it wasn't openly antagonistic, right? That's not how you operate as a businessman. That's not how you operate in the real world. That may be how you operate on the internet. That may be how you operate when you're running a political campaign.
Okay.
Right? When you're trying to appeal to certain groups of people.
It's
Yeah,
validated.
you say that when, again, you're campaigning, when you're in politics mode, right? When you're trying to win elections. Yeah. You say the worst things about a person. But when you get behind closed doors and you get down to the nitty gritty and you understand the power dynamics, all that political theater, all that stuff for social media, that goes out the door. None of that matters. And in this situation, make no mistake, don't let these leftists fool you. Zoran is not the power player here. As New York City mayor, he does not have power. He doesn't. We saw that with Eric Adams. Eric Adams was allied with President Trump. Wasn't that much that Eric Adams could do to actually really help the administration, because ultimately at the end of the day, the mayor of New York is weak. Zoran knows that. So Zoran knows that, well, ultimately, he needs the president more than the president needs him. Let's be honest. Zoran knows that the power is with the governor. The power is with the state legislator. That's where the power's at. The power is not with the New York City mayor. So, again, this is why you're seeing Zoran, who, again, campaigned on Trump being evil, the worst person ever. He's terrible, fascist, Hitler, right? He campaigned on that. But when he actually got elected, reality kicked in. And he realized, wait, I really don't have that much power. I'm still a little guy, right? In the grand scheme of politics, right? And how power works. He's still a little guy. He doesn't really have that much power. He can't fulfill all the promises that he made on the campaign trail. He can't do it. Now, again, idiots voted for him, thinking that he could do it, but he can't really do it. He knows he can't do it. He knows he's going to need help. And because he knows that, and he's basically moving in a practical way, that is what you see here. President Trump wants to see his city, the city that he grew up in, the city that he loves, do well. He doesn't want to undermine the city if he doesn't have to, right? If he doesn't have to, he doesn't want to do that. Of course he doesn't want to do that. So, yeah, he's going to be open-minded and say, okay, well, this guy might be a socialist, but I'm going to listen to him, hear him out. Let's see if we can agree. Let's see if we disagree and go from there. If the relationship works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But you don't undermine a relationship. You don't destroy the relationship at the beginning, right? Else. You don't accomplish anything like that. And Zoran approached it from the same angle. So that's why I'm not surprised. But does it really mean anything going forward? Not really. It just means that the initial meeting wasn't terrible, right? They didn't hate each other, right, during the initial meeting, and that they're going to at least attempt to make a good faith effort of working together to make the city better. But that doesn't mean that it's actually going to work. That doesn't mean that the relationship is going to work. That's not what it means. It just means that they were open-minded in the first meeting. We're going to go from there and see what happens. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.
With AI, you can create
any character you want.
Real life,
fantasy, sci-fi,
even animation. Oh, and don't forget about AI visual effects. You don't need expensive cameras or complicated software. You just need to know the right AI tools and how to use them. It's Cyber Monday, and ContentCreator.com is having its biggest sale of the year, where you can get our AI creator course, our viral video effects editing course, and our editing template pack for a crazy low price. Let's start with the AI creator course. In just 2 days, I'll show you how to unlock the most advanced AI filmmaking and content creation tools without having to pay a cent in overpriced subscriptions. And with these tools, you'll learn how to create scroll-stopping videos that rack up millions of views, craft wildly profitable online ads that blow up your brand, and turn any creative idea into a powerful short film that looks like it belongs on a Hollywood screen. But it's not just AI filmmaking you're gonna learn. With AI, you can create...
Hey, noble ones, welcome back to my channel. This is the Metatron speaking, and there is a creator that I used to watch by the name of Amala Ekpunobi, and she is a conservative commentator, and I remember that I think I must have reacted to one of her videos quite a few years ago, and I thought that whatever she was presenting was actually pretty based and cool. But I haven't watched it. I haven't watched her content in a very long time because I think I got like busy with other things and other projects. However, she recently posted a video that I saw on the homepage, and so I decided let's have a look at this.
Oh, not
also because it features Charlie Kirk's yours and only face on the thumbnail, so I'm interested. The title is John Fetterman Shuts Down Katie Couric. This was insane, so let's have a look.
I think some people might say Charlie Kirk's rhetoric was extreme.
No, it wasn't that extreme, and Charlie Kirk most definitely didn't deserve to die, although Katie Kirk makes it seem like he did in this insane clip where she presses John Fetterman to sort of get him to disavow Charlie Kirk. Well, it doesn't work, so let's watch.
Let's watch. Let's watch.
Guys, before we get into today's video, please like and subscribe. You remember Katie Couric, right? She used to be like this golden journalist. She was on the Today Show. Everybody loves Katie Couric. You can wake up with Katie Couric. Well, Katie Couric has changed, or she was always this, and I just didn't see it. I'm going to show you this clip of her interviewing John Fetterman, and they get into the topic of Charlie Kirk. And Katie Couric
U.S. Senator
wants to make it clear that too much was done for Charlie Kirk. This big funeral flying on Air Force 2, you know, we should talk about Charlie Kirk's rhetoric and how dangerous and extreme it was. But John Fetterman doesn't bite, and I'll give him his flowers for that. But let's watch.
You think that flag should have been flown at half staff? Do you think his body should have been flown on Air Force 2? Do you think he should have posthumously be given the Presidential Medal of Freedom?
Yes.
I think some people felt that that was perhaps over the top in terms of mourning someone like Charlie Kirk.
No, it wasn't.
I don't know, Katie. Was he one of the...
mourning someone like Charlie Kirk.
I don't know, Katie. Was he one of the largest political influencers of our time, and was he a massive cultural force in this last election? I think so. Anyways, I think Donald Trump can decide what he wants to do regarding Charlie Kirk after one of the biggest assassinations in history. Mind you, we all...
Exactly. Thank you, Amala. Thank you. The huge impact of this political assassination and the subsequent hundreds of thousands of
Oh,
celebrations
look at that. It already
required
existed.
this level of standing up
Okay,
for
so
the
let's
truth
go to
and
our
for justice.
Through what happened with George Floyd and the police brutality narratives and the Black Lives Matter
she didn't have a
movement
problem
and
with that.
riots, where what, over $2 billion of damage was done here in
Yeah.
the United States.
Okay,
There was
like,
this
we
huge,
need to
massive
fix-
funeral
I
with
need to
politicians
fix
bowing
this.
all over the place, yet one of our biggest
I need to
political
fix this so
influences
all of
gets
our logs-
assassinated, and you think it's too much to respond in this
As usual, two standards, double standards.
way. Okay.
Choice and his
Something's
prerogative,
happening.
and that's
Lots
and that was really entirely up to him.
Did you have any issues now in hindsight over some of the things that Charlie Kirk said and some of the issues now in hindsight over some of the things that Charlie Kirk said and some of the rhetoric he used during his life?
There's such an interesting dynamic right now with interviewers and leading questions. And we saw this really famously now, or infamously, in the Sydney Sweeney interview, where the interviewer asked her to comment on the white supremacy angle of her American Eagle jeans ad. Katie Couric, why not just ask John Fetterman how he feels about Charlie Kirk? Why do you have to lead by saying Charlie Kirk had extreme rhetoric, or a lot of people are commenting on his rhetoric, and then sort of spoon feed him an answer?
Because she's a manipulator, clearly, and she has a propagandistic message to push. Also, here would be my comeback to this lady. My comeback would be, since you like talking about extreme rhetoric and its dangers, why aren't you talking about the rhetoric, the far radical left-wing rhetoric that got him killed, instead of the rhetoric of the victim? Unbelievable. Scumbag. They're trying to make us think that the problem is the victim. It's the victim, it's his rhetoric. Not the rhetoric that they called him a fascist, not the rhetoric that said bullet to the fascist written on the freaking magazines. No, that one, not a problem. Not the same rhetoric that tried to assassinate Trump. That's fine. Yeah, of course, yeah, because fascist. It's the same rhetoric. It's just that unfortunately, with Charlie, they did not miss. But that's not now. We need to discuss the rhetoric of the victim, the highest level of victim blaming. Thank you for calling this nonsense out. What are you doing? Why are you not subscribed?
It's so brand new, year 26 with Battleship. Love the way you feel behind a Hertz car. Standing rides that feel like driving fine art. New, it's so brand new.
Let's do it again.
Oh, seriously, man, what do I need to do? You've been watching my channel for how long? And every time you're like, no, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it next year. I'll do it next century. Seriously, man, come on, just click the subscribe button. Is it they could do? Look, listen. I'm gonna do it with you right now. I'm gonna subscribe to my own channel. I can join it though. Oh, seriously, how does that work? How can I join my own channel? Can I pay? Are you joking? YouTube. So I can pay. Click. Holy moly, I can. So I can pay myself, probably because they take a cut, right? So they're fine with that one. Well played. I'm going to do it now. In 3, 2, 1. See? I subscribed to myself, and you still haven't subscribed to me. But seriously, subscribe.
Commenting on his rhetoric, and then sort of spoon feed him an answer. He's a grown-ass man. Everybody that you interview is capable of answering questions, with their own thoughts and feelings. You don't have to spoon feed them what they should think and feel.
I didn't agree with much of it. I didn't closely follow his specific kinds of views, but I did.
I'm sure you learned about them after his death, though.
Ooh. You see that face? I want to replay that again. And watch her face. I'm no body language expert, but watch what she does. Watch that little, like, the contempt in her smile when she says, I'm sure you've learned about it after his death, though. That little smile.
Kinds of views. But I'm
sure you learned about them after his death, though.
She could feel the attitude in her voice and had to, like, try to put on that little smile at the end, but she does not feel like smiling towards what he's saying right now.
Nicety. You call it nicety. If you don't know that word, here's a new word for you.
Which is perfectly reasonable. I don't really agree with his views, but I'm not, obsessed with Charlie Kirk, this guy who was assassinated, and wrongfully so.
No, I haven't done a deep dive on it. We've all seen that terrible video. Perhaps if you've seen the actual video, I have. And it's like appalling. And that's part of the political violence. And from what I'm saying, it's like that's unacceptable. And engaging in a debate and views I strongly disagree on, that's part of the American democracy.
Yes.
And for me, it's that would never justify what's happened.
Yes.
And I just chose not to take the opportunity to argue his views after children lost his father in the most violent public way. I mean, so that's, I would say the equivalent on the left might be, say, Mr. Piker. I strongly disagree with his views, but I'm appalled if something like that happened to him. Oh my God.
Based.
I mean, that's, like we have to.
Based. She, however, does not seem appalled at all, does she? With a little grin. That's the difference between us and you.
We have to disagree in better ways where, you're going to solve it by shooting people. And that's why the kinds of rhetoric, we have to turn the temperature down. Extreme rhetoric makes it easier for extreme reactions to justify them.
The left is just people might say Charlie Kirk's rhetoric was extreme.
It just doesn't stop. We get a beautiful, eloquent answer from John Fetterman, which, by the way, we're repping John Fetterman right now. I'm even in a sweatshirt and everything. I didn't even know I had John Fetterman energy for this video. But yes, he's talking about we need to turn down the temperature. And that's what so many have been asking for, before Charlie Kirk's assassination and after. Charlie Kirk himself had made posts about assassination culture and seeing that on the rise and seeing that sort of rhetoric on the rise. And he was calling for the temperature to be turned down, especially on the left. And this is what we need to hear right now. Yet Katie Couric, after hearing all of that, goes back into digging on Charlie, goes back into, let's be honest, a justification of his assassination by saying, well, don't you think his rhetoric was extreme?
Exactly. It's like she's relentless because she's a propaganda brain. Look at the grin. Look at the eyes. You don't need to be a body language expert, Amala, to recognize that this is a brain high on propaganda. She thinks that whatever is justified, and that's disgusting. No. What you say to what he said is, yeah, I agree. You're absolutely right. Yeah, he did not deserve that, and I appreciate that you would be appalled if someone on the left were to be shot. That's what you say. But she doesn't. One, because again, and that's one thing that happens a lot in the radical left, she has to be very careful what she agrees with, because they will devour her alive if she does anything, if she concedes even the smallest point. And then she only has one objective. She's trying to destroy the memory of a good man, simply because he didn't have her political ideas.
I think that's the conversation that happened. People condemned political violence, but they also felt a great deal of discomfort with his language, suggesting that these kinds of words lead to violence. I don't know. I'm just kind of...
Give us an example, Katie. Let us know the extreme rhetoric, because I'm very familiar with the work of Charlie Kirk. I've seen what he's done on campuses. I see the videos that he posts, where he's telling people who disagree with him to come straight up to the front to have a respectful conversation with him, where when students are getting unruly, he tells them to calm down. He tells them not to bully. He tells them not to rage out on people who disagree with them, where he's consistently trying to have what may be uncomfortable conversations for people like Katie Couric, who want to label them as extreme, but are normal, reasonable conversations to have with your fellow citizens.
Because she doesn't want the conversation. She wants you to listen, shut up, and obey. Get in line. That's what they want. To people like her, the truth is an obstacle. Dialogue, discourse, particularly with someone who is skilled in the art of conversation and debate, is something that needs to be shut down because it's detrimental to the presentation of their indoctrination. This is what it is. That's why she resents him and his ideas to the point that she will show no decency. She didn't even say anything. She didn't say, yeah, I agree, it was appalling. He didn't deserve to die. It's awful that happened to him, but she didn't even do that. It's full mask off, true colors. She doesn't care. If anything, I'm sure she's glad about it. Can't prove it, but...
Sharing my observations as I saw the conversations unfold.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think we agree that we probably didn't agree with much of what he said. And I think I'm sure we both agree that you shouldn't shoot people, and you shouldn't execute them in public. And I think that's two things must be true. That free speech, I'm an absolute free speech guy, and
good
you
man.
have the right to say these things, and you definitely also have the right not to get shot by sharing your views.
Shout out to John Fetterman, who just doesn't bite. When time after time, she's just not accepting of the answer that he's given, which when it comes to assassination versus I don't like what he said at the campus, I think we focus on the assassination part. I think when given the two options of the people who are still living, whose rhetoric contributed to the assassination of somebody who's just trying to have conversation, we look at the words of the people who contributed to the assassination.
Yes.
That's where the real extremism lies,
Absolutely.
and not in the words of Charlie Kirk. And it's so interesting that Katie Kirk has such strong views that she's trying to veil in, I'm a journalist and I'm just asking questions. This seems to be what I'm hearing on the street. This seems to be what people feel about Charlie Kirk. It's not what I feel about Charlie Kirk. It's just what I'm hearing. It's just the conversation that, other people are having. She's all about it, okay? And she's all about pointing out his extremism. And here's an interesting clip of her talking about going to dinner at Jeffrey Epstein's house. And we're going to get into why this is interesting in just a moment.
Katie, Emily S. wants to know the strangest part of going to a dinner party at Jeffrey Epstein's house with Chelsea Handler.
Yeah.
That's
so. Wow. That's a long story. Look, in my book. Yeah.
Look at the huge smile on her face. Yeah, I know. Like, she can't even drop the smile on her face to act like she's shocked that she went to dinner at a pedophile's house. So let's do it one more time, since we're really concerned with extremism and extremist rhetoric and extreme actions.
Katie, Emily S. wants to know the strangest part of going to a dinner party at Jeffrey Epstein's house with Chelsea Handler.
Yeah.
That's
a long story that's in my book. Yeah.
I know. That's a long story. It's in my book. So let's plug the book. After we get asked about a dinner at Jeffrey Epstein's house, let's plug my book. If you want to hear more about my night with a pedophile, you can buy my book at katiecouric.com. Let's keep watching.
I was invited to go to this dinner at Jeffrey Epstein's house, and George Stephanopoulos was going to be there, and it was right before Kate and William got married, and I thought, oh, I better go because it was in honor of Prince Andrew. And
I must go. I must go to Jeffrey Epstein's house to honor another pedophile, to honor the second pedophile. Mind you, she may not have known about Prince Andrew at this point. Prince Andrew is no longer Prince Andrew. He's actually been stripped of his titles due to the whole endangering of minors thing, the whole sexual activity with minors thing. Allegedly. Okay. Allegedly. The guy doesn't sweat, so I guess we can't get him there, but allegedly.
Thought I better schmooze Prince Andrew. If George is, I need to get in there.
I better schmooze Prince Andrew. If George is, I better get in there. So this is what American journalism looks like. This is what journalistic integrity looks like. I need to go to a dinner party at Jeffrey Epstein's house because George Stephanopoulos is there, because Prince Andrew is going to be there, and also the prince and the princess are soon to be married. And if George is going to schmooze with Prince Andrew and Jeffrey Epstein, I better do that too. All right, Katie Couric.
And I didn't know anything about Jeffrey Epstein at the time. And it was super weird. What can I say? And the person I was with...
The weirdness was really communicated with that huge grin that you had on your face. And of course, you went to honor Prince Andrew. But of course, and she didn't know anything about Jeffrey Epstein at the time. Let's look that up.
Liar.
Okay. So Jeffrey Epstein was in jail in 2009 for 18 months for what? Let's read it here. The charges of soliciting prostitution with a minor. That was in 2009. Now, Katie Couric says that she was going to Jeffrey Epstein's house around this wedding time. That was in 2011. That's 2 years later, baby. So you didn't know that you were...
GG. Holy mother of Skyrim, Amala. Love to see it.
Oops.
Can you tell these are AI?
Not really.
Neither can we. Go to Artlist for the best quality AI. Always up to date. Get the strongest models in one flow and create the best AI images, videos, and voiceovers in one place. Just enter a prompt or a starting image and get video with lifelike motion and true-to-prompt results with a premium cinematic finish. Go to Artlist and start creating without limits.
Man, she's cooking.
Going to the house of somebody convicted of soliciting prostitution with a minor. I guess you didn't do your journalistic research. All right.
Did you notice how young the girls were who were taking the coats? And I said I really didn't, but of course later we found out everything about him.
Let's watch that again.
The person I was with said, did you notice how young the girls were who were taking the coats? And I said I really didn't, but of course later we found out everything about him. But yeah, I was invited to it, and I should have done a little more research. But a lot of the stuff.
You know, and this is the reason why when, like, you guys, I was young at one point and I wanted to be a model really bad. And I realized early on I couldn't do it because there were things like that I would see in these, what do they call them? Casting calls. You know, it was things like that I saw. And I walked away from it. These women like this, they do see it. When they tell you that they don't, we do see it. We choose to ignore it. It's the very few who don't ignore it are the ones who usually don't end up becoming these rich, wonderful, living these exorbitant lives. They normally find their truth. They normally get rich another way, and usually is through a very moral manner. It's individuals like this who don't see, even though it's right in front of their eyes. They're the ones. They know what's going on. They choose to ignore it. She is a liar.
About him hadn't come out yet.
Oh, a lot of the stuff about him hadn't come out yet. 2 years after his prison sentence that he served.
They all
and
knew.
Whilst you were there,
People
you see
knew.
the person you went with remarked on how young the girls were who
Exactly.
were taking your coats.
Everyone knows gossip. It doesn't matter what circle you run into, whether it's like the coding nerds or the gossip, girls. Everyone talks about people. If you've ever been in a computer science class or just an engineering student, everyone knows who the dummies are. Everybody. Okay, people will be like, I don't want them for my lab partner. Physics. I totally understand. I get it. And me being the way that I am, I did pretty much all of my physics stuff by myself when it came to my labs. Because I already went into this knowing that you have to prove yourself. That's usually the man world, and it is a man's world when it comes to engineering. And you have to prove yourself for them to actually let you be like, okay, we're going to leave you with this responsibility. That's usually how it goes. You prove yourself, they give you more responsibility. That's how it goes. So, but we all gossip. Everyone knows who's dumb. Everyone knows. So when it comes to this social stuff, it's even worse. Everyone knows who's a slut. Everyone knows who's a man whore. Everyone knows it.
Truly, being servants to you. And no, I didn't know.
That's why I'm like Katie's lying.
How young the little girls were who were running around Jeffrey Epstein's place.
Okay.
Be so for real, Katie Couric. Now, this is the person who gets to lecture people about extremism and about whether or not Charlie Kirk, a man who spent his life worshiping God and trying to have conversations with college students, now she gets to dictate whether or not he was an extremist. Mind you, she'll be spending, I guess, the weekend at Jeffrey Epstein's house having dinner with George Stephanopoulos and Prince Andrew. Bunch of stand-up guys. Give me a break. I mean, there's nothing else I can say here. It speaks for itself. I just had to show you the insane clip.
Thank
and
you.
then reinforce it with a little bit of who the fuck are you, Katie Couric, to be talking about Charlie Kirk to John Fetterman. And shout out again to John Fetterman for standing his ground and going, you know what? I think if we're going to have a conversation about extremism, it should apply most directly to the assassination that all of America and really like all the West watched take place. Guys, thank you so much for sticking with me. I got a little heated in this one, and I think you can understand why. Drop your thoughts in the comments down below. As always, if you're enjoying this video, do it up, do so respectfully. I encourage healthy debate on this channel. And if you like this video, like, subscribe, click the notification bell to be notified every single time I post a video for you guys, which is every day. And it's dinner time. I'm gonna go have dinner. With 2 pedophiles.
No.
Thanks, guys.
Not with 2 pedophiles.
Do not change her vibes one bit.
I think it's weird though. We want to chastise, like when it comes to the women, it's the women over this whole Jeffrey Epstein that has really surprised me, because like it's been the women who have always been like, believe women, believe women, believe women. Jeffrey Epstein, how dare anyone talk to a pedophile? And then when we see that, hey, a lot of, well, not a lot, but women in particular, Democrat women have been, asking, they did ask, this looks so bad. This just looks so bad. So you have women ask a convicted pedophile. So they knew they asked a convicted pedophile for either help digging up dirt on someone, that tells me that you lack what's the word when you're trying to vet people. You think that getting information from someone who is a convicted pedophile is credible. It's like, holy shit. Women, what are we doing? You can't sit here and tell the whole entire world to believe women when they say they've been SA'd and all this other stuff, and then at the same time go on national television on CNN, out of all places, Jasmine Crockett, and then the Virgin Isle delegate, Stacey Plackett, black women at that. Okay, these two black women make excuses for why they needed to speak to a convicted pedophile. It's like, holy crap. Most men would be like, what? Like, most men would be hands down, no, let's not talk to a pedophile. But why would women? Why, like I would think women would be so livid. No one would talk to a pedophile, but you had two Democrat women go right up ahead and, well, not two, but that one Democrat woman, not only did she take his call, she, on top of that, took his money. So, Hakeem Jeffries, another person who's a Democrat, during this whole entire thing with trying to release the Epstein and then trying to get Donald Trump, we're learning about a lot of information about the Democrat Party. In my opinion, it's not a surprise because they are liars. Okay, the typical, Katie Courics, those are the type of individuals you would see with someone like Jeffrey Epstein. And that's the part that people don't want to acknowledge. People who get invited to these lavish parties, those are the ones you should question whether or not there's some conflict of interest, if they actually are, good, genuine people. The ones not getting invited to these lavish parties, those are the ones I would, be somewhat more skeptical about when it comes to any allegations towards them being invited to these freaking parties. But, everything bad that's crazy that happens, it happens at parties. It doesn't happen in the comfort of your home, if you're by yourself or with your family. It's supposed to not happen there. But when we hear about all the degeneracy that happens in the world, it happens at parties more so than it does in someone's home. So yeah, it makes
and more justification, lack of decency from the same people that had no trouble with Charlie Kirk being offed unjustly.
It's like, have you ever been to, like, if you're a high schooler, you guys, you know this. You've gone to those high school parties, and that's where all the shit happens. And your parents are going to be like, you can't go to that party. Where are you going? Midnight. That's your, not even midnight. A lot of times it'll be like 9 o'clock on the school day, and then or 10 o'clock on the school day, and then midnight on the weekends. But everyone knows all the craziness happens in parties. So it's like, for her to not even, whatever. Okay, let's watch some fun stuff. I actually want to watch something that will get the creative juices going. And for me, that is always some sort of sci-fi, mystical journey. But I do like Enoch, so I don't know. Let's listen to some. Trump gives Ukraine Thanksgiving deadline to accept. Oh, Jesus. Okay, I want to listen to Enoch. Let's try to find some story of Enoch. Or just some, I don't know, I just like stories. Let's see. I just like stories. Oh, this one is the Y Files. I don't think I can watch. This is documentary, but I want to watch it. But YouTube, because I'm also streaming on YouTube too. YouTube, I don't know. This is educational, but they're really weird about which ones I can and cannot watch. So it's educational, Hmm. And I like the Y. I love this channel, the Y Files. I'm starting to love it. I didn't know about it, but I love the stories here. Okay, let's hear about the stories. Okay. While that's playing in the background, I don't want to talk about politics anymore. Because that's shit.
Ship, the Ark. 5 months later, the waters recede, and the Ark made ground on a mountain.
Okay.
This episode of the Y-Files is brought to you by PDS Debt.
Okay.
Enoch warned the giants and the watchers of the world, repent or feel God's wrath. They ignored his warning. The floodgates of heaven burst forth, and water rushed over the earth, destroying everything. The only thing to survive is a single vessel, a huge ship, the Ark. 5 months later, the waters recede, and the Ark made ground on a mountaintop. A man named Noah emerged, and civilization began again. Some version of the Noah's Ark story exists in almost every religion and every culture on Earth. But did Noah and the Ark really exist? Well, there's evidence that they did. So much evidence that it was classified by the CIA for almost 50 years. But why classify it? Well, there are two problems with the Noah's Ark story. One, the Ark is much older than anyone thought. And two, the man named Noah, he wasn't a man. At least, not a man from Earth. These aren't that weird, I guess.
Human, wonderful. I can't talk long because I gotta get 200 units finished and out the door by COB today.
Well, you called me, so...
I'm killing it with these camel toes, and I have to order more fabric, stuffing, thread, no skid bottoms, labels, boxes.
Okay, hang on. How are you making camel toes? Aren't those...
Well, they're slippers shaped like Gertie's feet.
Oh.
What did you think I meant?
Well...
Never mind. Look, our Hecklefish slippers are selling like hotcakes, right?
Our Hecklefish slippers?
Look, human, you're selling something that allows people to stick their foot inside me, so I think I could say our.
Technically, it's just your likeness.
Yeah, well, every time I see someone slip their foot inside one, I swear I could feel it all the way up my...
Okay, that'll do.
Thank God those slippers aren't voodoo dolls, huh? I'd never be able to sit down again.
Okay, that's enough. Remember, you licensed your likeness to me to fund that Hecklefish Sings Vegas album.
Well, that's gonna be big. Somewhere beyond the sea, somewhere waiting for me, my lover stands on golden sand.
What do you want?
Take it easy. Okay, look, I need another teensy-weensy little teeny tiny baby weeny loan of, say, 15 large. The bank turned me down because I have too many credit cards and loans. But I need the money so everyone can have soft, pretty little camel toes this holiday season.
Okay, one, I'm not loaning you $15,000. And B, I'd seriously consider changing the name of this product. And third, why don't you just call PDS?
Oh, it sounds like you're gracefully sliding into today's sponsor.
Yep. If you're making payments every month and your balances aren't going down, PDS can help. They roll your debt into one low 0% interest monthly payment. You can save thousands in interest and fees and pay off your debt in a fraction of the time.
But my pile of debt is high, and my credit is not.
No problem. Everyone with over $10,000 in debt qualifies, and there's no minimum credit score required. Bad and fair credit accepted.
Perfect. Did they give us one of those linkety-clickety things?
Sure did. PDS is giving our qualified viewers a free debt analysis for completing the 30-second online assessment at www.pdsdebt.com/files.
That's pdsdebt.com/files.
You got it.
Perfecto. I'm gonna stuff a camel toe in every stocking.
Okay, you seriously need to change that name.
Gotta go. Lots of sewing to do. The camel toe came floating from across the sea. It lingered there.
Alright, I want to see that it got
Well,
created.
look at me.
I want it in the log. Okay, so. I need to change this because
With AI,
You can create any character you want in seconds.
This used to require huge Hollywood budgets,
complex software in tons of time.
But right now, all you need is a laptop
and knowledge of the best AI tools.
It'll cost you practically nothing, and it doesn't require a subscription.
In just 2 days, I'll show you how to unlock the most advanced AI filmmaking tools without paying a cent in overpriced subscriptions. You'll learn how to create scroll-stopping videos that rack up millions of views, make profitable online ads that blow up your brand, turn any idea into a cinematic short film that looks like it belongs in Hollywood. But you won't only learn about AI filmmaking in this course. I'll also show you how to create viral thumbnails with AI.
James Bruce was born to a wealthy Scottish family in 1730. His family wanted him to study law, but James Bruce had different plans. He had a dream. He wanted to be the first person to find the legendary source of the Nile River. Now, this might sound like a mundane task, but for hundreds of years, the race to find the source of the Nile was as gripping as the race to put a man on the moon.
Well, nobody won that race.
What now?
Nobody went to the moon. The whole thing was faked.
I'm just saying the race to find the source of the Nile was a big deal.
Then just say that. Don't give me some cockamamie nonsense about the race to the moon. That never happened.
I was just making a comparison.
Well, you made it poorly.
Bruce spent over a decade in Africa tracing the Nile. He traveled through war-torn deserts. He befriended several kings and made enemies of others. He fought savage tribes and survived deadly diseases. Nearly starving to death, James Bruce discovered a small spring. It was bubbling from the earth near a monastery in the Tigray highlands of Ethiopia. This was it, the source of the Nile River. But Bruce discovered something else, something much more important. During his stay at the Ethiopian monastery, he saw an old, faded manuscript on display. It was written in Ge'ez, an ancient Semitic language used by Ethiopian Jews. James Bruce was told this book was the Bible, not a Bible, the Bible. Judaism in Ethiopia goes back almost 3,000 years. The Old Testament and Quran tell of the Ethiopian Queen of Sheba who heard about the wisdom and wealth of King Solomon. She was intrigued by these reports and decided to travel to Jerusalem to meet him for herself. The specifics of their meeting were not specified, but the Queen of Sheba was so impressed, she praised the God of Israel and gave King Solomon many gifts. She brought caravans of gold, gems, and spices. King Solomon, grateful and equally impressed, gives the Ethiopian queen all that she asks, and then the queen returns home. In the Old Testament and Quran, that's where the story ends. But religious texts in Ethiopia go into much more detail. When the queen finally made it home, she learned that Solomon gave her one last gift, a son.
Ah, King Solomon the player.
Their son was Menelik I. When Menelik grew up, he returned to Jerusalem to meet his father. King Solomon was so happy to finally meet his son that he offered Menelik the throne. Menelik declined and chose to return home. But before Menelik left, some of his men stole the Ark of the Covenant and brought it back to Ethiopia. There's been a large Jewish population in Ethiopia ever since. According to the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, the Ark of the Covenant is still in Ethiopia. It's in the town Axum in the Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion. And it's a great story, and if you want to hear it, I've linked it below. Back at the monastery, James Bruce was fascinated by these new texts. Bruce was a well-read, well-educated man, and he knew his scripture. But these Ethiopian texts contained hundreds of stories that weren't in the Bible. Not in his Bible, anyway. The Ethiopian Bible contains 81 books. The Catholic Bible removed 8 of those books and contains only 73. The King James Bible, the one known to Bruce, has only 66 books. Bruce didn't understand. There was so much more detail in the older texts. People merely mentioned once or twice in the modern Bible had their entire lives documented in the Ethiopian Bible. Their lives, their families, their deeds, their misdeeds, they were all there. James Bruce didn't understand why so much of the original Bible was removed. And then he did.
Did I not comment?
While thumbing through the stiff, dusty pages, Bruce came across the Book of Enoch. James Bruce knew Enoch as the great-grandfather of Noah. He was mentioned a few times in the Bible, but only in passing. Here was an entire book on Enoch, 108 chapters. Now James Bruce understood why the church wanted this book hidden. It described heaven not just as a spiritual place, but as a physical place that could be visited by men. That was heresy. No mortal man is able to visit heaven, and certainly not able to visit and return. But Enoch did, and he wrote down everything he saw. He didn't describe heaven as souls floating in the clouds playing harps. He describes it as a city in the sky with many different rooms with walls covered in gems of blinking lights, and godlike beings going about their business. Now, Enoch wouldn't have known it at the time, but he was describing a spacecraft.
Maybe what to do.
The Book of Enoch vanished from history thousands of years ago, only to be rediscovered in 1772 by James Bruce. While the Book of Enoch was certainly interesting, it was dismissed by Muslims, Jews, and Christians, and not considered part of the Bible. After all, it was hidden away on a mountain in Ethiopia. How important could it really be? If the Book of Enoch was truly scripture, there would be more copies of it, but there weren't. But 150 years later, that would change. In 1947, near the ancient settlement of Qumran, a young shepherd happened upon...
I just love these stories. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, my mom texted me wanting to know if we wanted to come to her house for dinner tomorrow night. Oh, really? Sure, I don't mind. Me responding. Well, it's actually Sunday night.
Sunday? Yeah, it's fine. That's fine.
Why is she doing Sunday if we're eating on Thursday?
You talking about for Thanksgiving?
No, she wants to just do a dinner on Sunday night, but then she wants to cook again on Thursday.
For Thanksgiving?
Yeah. She just wants to cook all week.
I guess, I don't know, ask your mom. See if that's what she wants to do.
Oh, no, she just said, or she texted me, come over Sunday, do a dinner.
Oh, okay.
See Marjorie Taylor Greene retiring?
Oh, no. She is. Oh, shit. Oh, crap. I don't know, man. Okay. All right.
Cave. He was looking for a stray goat and thought it could have wandered in. The boy tossed a rock in the cave, hoping to scare the goat out. Instead, he heard the sound of pottery breaking. Within the cave were clay jars filled with ancient scrolls, almost 1,000 manuscripts. The scrolls cover every part of the Hebrew Bible, and there, amongst the well-known books, was the Book of Enoch. In fact, in ancient times, the Book of Enoch was so widely read and regarded, 11 copies of it were found among the Dead Sea Scrolls. They were intact, complete, and perfectly matched the text of the Ethiopian Bible. Still, the Book of Enoch is considered apocryphal and not part of the Bible. Apocryphal is a nice way of saying it's fake. Some even consider the Book of Enoch to be heresy, a crime against God. When you read the book, you can understand why. Enoch may actually be the first case of alien abduction ever documented. One evening, there's a strange sound above Enoch's village. It's not thunder or wind. It's a sound that seems to make the air and earth vibrate. It's a sound that can be felt. The villagers cautiously come out of their homes and see a bright orb of light hovering just above the trees. Slowly, the sphere of light descends upon the village. The townspeople are terrified, but Enoch hears a voice tell him to not be afraid. Enoch then ascends to heaven, escorted by a celestial being named Uriel. Something similar happens to the prophet Elijah in 2 Kings. Elijah is physically taken to heaven in what he calls a chariot of fire.
Do do do do do.
No.
Do do do do do do. Do do do do do. What?
It's easy to see that a man living thousands of years ago would describe a rocket or a spacecraft as a chariot of fire.
Do do do do do do do do do do do do.
That's enough.
Okay, sheesh, what a grouch.
Can you please just hear me out?
No, all work management platforms are the same.
Monday.com is the one you'll actually love to use. Did you see the dashboards? They update in real time from your team's day to day, so you're always in control.
No freaking way. I don't have to put the data in myself?
Are you for real?
Monday.com
handles all the boring stuff.
Try catch?
In Abrahamic religions, souls of the righteous go to heaven after death. Maybe Jesus takes them by the hand, maybe they follow a loved one through the light, or maybe they just arrive there. This is not what happens to Enoch. Like Elijah, Enoch is physically taken to heaven and writes down everything he sees. He doesn't write this from memory. He's literally walking around with Uriel writing things down. He was instructed to do so by God. And although Enoch describes this journey in religious language, he's also pretty scientific. He describes seeing mountains below. He sees every river on Earth. He describes seeing how the winds are made, possibly referring to cloud formations. Enoch sees all of this as divine, but his account could be referring to technology. A smartphone would seem supernatural to someone living thousands of years ago. A spaceship would be incomprehensible. When Enoch arrives in heaven,
the mothership,
he's shown a bunch of doors. He calls them 12 gates. Each door has a name and a purpose. He sees beings walking in and out of the doors, going about their business. Enoch calls these beings angels and archangels. Like Uriel, they radiate light. It's been suggested that these beings could be holographic projections. Though they're extremely bright, Enoch can see through them. Enoch is then taken on a tour of the cosmos. He travels the galaxy. He's shown the movement of celestial bodies. He's told about man's place in the universe. Uriel teaches Enoch about the solar system. He's told the length of an Earth year is 364 days. He's shown the lunar cycle. He's shown how constellations move across the sky. This is interesting because the Book of Enoch was written thousands of years before many of these discoveries were made. Now, you would think that there would be nothing above heaven, but wherever Enoch is, this place has a ceiling. Enoch specifically calls it a lofty roof. Enoch is taken to a giant room full of plants that he doesn't recognize. Uriel calls it one of the storehouses of nature. Now, this could be an arboretum or a garden. When humans finally travel through space, there will definitely be gardens on their ships. Enoch is shown an object with writing on it he calls the Book of Life. He says this records all the deeds of man.
It sounds like the angel works for the FBI.
Right. The Book of Life is essentially a database of surveillance records. There's a room for the wicked. Enoch describes it as a place of torture and mutilation. But this room has also been interpreted as where alien abductees endure experiments. Finally, Enoch enters the room with the throne of God. He said there's no way to describe or comprehend him. He averts his eyes. God tells Enoch the secrets of the angels and the nature of the universe. He shows Enoch the different dimensions of existence. He shows Enoch visions of the past, present, and the future. And that's when Enoch finally learns why he was summoned and told to write everything down. God needs a witness. He needs someone to describe what heaven and hell are like. Someone whose words will be passed down for generations so mankind has a written record of the afterlife. God also needs Enoch to deliver a message to some of God's angels on earth. And the message is not good news. In the early days of the world, God sent 200 angels to earth. Their purpose was to observe and guard humanity. They became known as the Watchers. Typically, angels are considered spiritual beings, but in the Book of Enoch, the Watchers are physical entities. They're described as large humanoids, some with wings, and they radiate so much light that it's difficult to look directly at them. The Watchers taught humans how to cultivate crops and create pottery. They taught humans about medicine and curing illness. The Watchers taught humans about astronomy and astrology. In ancient Sumerian texts, which Enoch is probably based on, 300 beings are sent to Earth from palaces in the sky. These beings are called the Observers. They too help humanity take a great leap forward. We see this story in ancient cultures all over the world. Advanced beings come down from the sky and bring humanity the gift of the world. God needs a witness. He needs someone to describe what heaven and hell are like. Someone whose words will be passed down for generations so mankind has a written record of the afterlife. God also needs Enoch to deliver a message to some of God's angels on earth. And the message is not good news. In the early days of the world, God sent 200 angels to earth. Their purpose was to observe and guard humanity. They became known as the Watchers. Typically, angels are considered spiritual beings, but in the Book of Enoch, the Watchers are physical entities. They're described as large humanoids, some with wings, and they radiate so much light that it's difficult to look directly at them. The Watchers taught humans how to cultivate crops and create pottery. They taught humans about medicine and curing illness. The Watchers taught humans about astronomy and astrology. In ancient Sumerian texts, which Enoch is probably based on, 300 beings are sent to Earth from palaces in the sky. These beings are called the Observers. They too help humanity take a great leap forward. We see this story in ancient cultures all over the world. Advanced beings come down from the sky and bring humanity the gift of civilization. In the Book of Enoch, the Watchers helped humanity advance quickly and civilization spread. But the Watchers became vain and proud. They were instructed by God to withhold certain knowledge from man. The Watchers ignored these instructions. The Watchers taught men how to create new metals for weapons. They taught men how to harness fire and wage war. They taught women witchcraft and alchemy. The Watchers revealed the secrets of the heavens and changed the course of human development.
They violated the Prime Directive.
They did. This transfer of knowledge was a double-edged sword. While it propelled humanity forward, it also brought about corruption, a deviation from God's order. The corruption didn't just affect men, it affected the Watchers as well. The Watchers were spending more and more time with human women.
Uh-oh, this isn't gonna end well.
The Watchers became lustful.
Told ya.
Then they started taking human women as wives for themselves.
And the angels, the children of the heaven, saw and lusted after them, and said to one another, Come, let us choose us wives from among the children of men, and beget us children. Enoch chapter 6, verse 1.
This part of the Enoch story has been interpreted as the human-alien hybridization program developed by the Anunnaki in Sumerian texts. In those stories, human women weren't being taken as wives, they were just being taken, abducted and used as incubators for a new species. This union of celestial and mortal bloodlines gave birth to a race of giants, the Nephilim. Another ancient text found in the Dead Sea Scrolls was called the Book of Giants. This book, along with the Book of Enoch, described the Nephilim as creatures of immense size and strength and immense cruelty. The Nephilim brought even more corruption and violence to the world. Torn between divinity and humanity without a home in either, they go insane. Soon they turn on humans and torture anyone they can find. The Nephilim needed to consume so much food that eventually they began feeding on human flesh. Humans are helpless to stop these advances. Many are enslaved by the powerful Nephilim. Many more are killed. Then a few humans decide to follow the example set by the Watchers. They think if angels can torture and kill and enslave and sleep with whoever they want, why can't we? Then the world becomes filled with people like this. Soon God can't tell who's a Nephilim and who isn't. Enoch delivers the message to the Watchers, to the Nephilim, and to all mankind. Repent for your sin or suffer the wrath of God. Enoch's warning is ignored. He's brought back to heaven where he begs God to help save the earth. So God makes a decision. The earth has become so corrupt and so foul that it needs to be reset. He will cause an event so cataclysmic that everything and everyone will be killed. Humans, angels, Nephilim, all of it, gone. But one man and his family will be spared. The only man who can't be corrupted. The only man who could be trusted to restart civilization. Enoch's great-grandson, Noah. But here's the thing. There's a lot more to Noah than we've been told. In the Book of Enoch, we get the full story.
In just 2 days, I'll show you how to unlock the most advanced AI filmmaking and content creation tools without having to pay a cent in overpriced subscriptions. And with these tools, you'll learn how to create scroll-stopping videos that rack up millions of views, craft wildly profitable online ads that blow up your brand, and turn any creative idea into a powerful short film that looks like
In Genesis, God appears to Noah and says the world is to end. There will be a great flood that washes away every living thing so the world can start again. He commands Noah to build a large boat, an ark. This ark will hold Noah, his family, and 2 of every animal. In the ark, they'll survive the flood and live to see a new age on earth. Everybody knows that story. But in Enoch, it happens a little bit differently. The Book of Enoch describes Noah's birth.
His body was as white as snow, and red as the blooming of a rose, and the hair of his head and his long locks were white as wool, and his eyes beautiful. And when opened his eyes, he lighted up the whole house like the sun, and the whole house was very bright. The Book of Noah, Book 3, Chapter 1.
Noah is described as beautiful with bright glowing skin, and from the moment of birth, Noah can speak. Noah's father, Lamech, panics. Lamech had been away during the time Noah would have been conceived, so he knows the child isn't his. What's worse, Noah is radiating light. Lamech is worried that Noah is a watcher, or worse, Nephilim. Lamech seeks counsel from his father, Methuselah. Also fearing the child could be a watcher, Methuselah prays to his own father, Enoch, who's been in heaven for many years. Enoch answers Methuselah.
And now make known to thy son Lamech that he who has been born is in truth his son, and call his name Noah, for he shall be left to you, and he and his sons shall be saved from the destruction which shall come upon the earth on account of all the sin and all the unrighteousness which shall be consummated on the earth in his days. The Book of Noah, Book 3, Chapter 18.
Lamech is relieved that Noah is truly his, but Noah was conceived while Lamech was away. In the Book of Enoch, this is a divine miracle. Or it's technology, artificial insemination and genetic manipulation, a successful human hybrid. Lamech also learns that a great flood is coming, and Noah has been chosen to restart civilization. In Genesis, God gives Noah instructions on how to survive, but the Book of Enoch tells it a little differently. The story of Noah and the flood is primarily found in the book of Genesis, chapters 6 through 9. This narrative is one of the most well-known in the Bible.
So God said to Noah, I'm going to put an end to all people, for the earth is filled with violence because of them. I am surely going to destroy both them and the earth.
But the book of Enoch tells it a little differently. First, it's Uriel who tells Noah about the flood, not God. And the intention of the flood is not to destroy all humans. According to the Book of Enoch, the primary targets of the Great Flood are the fallen angels known as Watchers and their human hybrid offspring, the Nephilim. Most humans will also die, but this is considered necessary collateral damage. It's the only way to reset creation and wipe the slate clean. If some humans survive, great. If they don't, it doesn't matter. Only Noah matters. Noah was given specific instructions on how to build the ark and survive.
Make yourself an ark of cypress wood. Make rooms in it and coat it with pitch inside and out. This is how you are to build it. The ark is to be 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, and 30 cubits high. Make a roof for it, leaving below the roof an opening 1 cubit high all around. Put a door in the side of the ark, and make lower, middle, and upper decks.
This is a big ship, longer than a football field, almost 100 feet wide, and taller than a 5-story building. It would need to be big, because Noah had an additional responsibility.
You are to bring into the ark 2 of all living creatures, male and female, to keep them alive with you. 2 of every kind of bird, of every kind of animal, and of every kind of creature that moves along the ground will come to you to be kept alive.
At this time in history, there were well over 1 million species of animals on Earth. Obviously, these wouldn't fit on the ark, but there are explanations and interpretations. The biblical interpretation is that Noah wasn't saving every breed of animal, just the type. So he wouldn't have brought any dogs. He would have brought a male and female gray wolf, and the wolves would eventually become dogs.
They should have left the cats.
Stop it.
The vicious little hell beasts they are.
That's enough.
Hi, I'm Kriti and thank you for clicking on this video and welcome back to this space. We are talking about books.
What about huge animals like elephants? Those were definitely on the ark. Some biblical scholars say the animals delivered to Noah were infants, allowing a lot more to fit. But there is an ancient astronaut theory that says there were no animals on the ark at all. Instead, it contained DNA samples of all living creatures on Earth, essential for rebuilding civilization. Whether it was God's doing or not, the time finally arrived. The end of the world. Or the beginning. With Noah, his family, and the animals safely aboard the ark, the flood began.
On that day, all the fountains of the great deep burst open, and the floodgates of the heavens were opened, and the rain fell on the earth 40 days and 40 nights.
As the waters raged over the earth, anyone not on the ark drowned. It took 5 months for the water to recede, and another 5 or 6 months for the land to be dry enough to leave the ark. Noah and his family and the animals were on the ark for a full year. For thousands of years, believers and skeptics have debated the scale of the flood, or even if it occurred at all. Some have argued the biblical flood was not a global event, but a local one. The best known theory to support this is the Black Sea Deluge hypothesis. First proposed in 1997, it argues the Black Sea was a freshwater lake around 260 feet lower than it is today. It was cut off from the Mediterranean Sea by a rocky sill in the Bosphorus Strait. Then, around 8,400 years ago, the Laurentide ice sheet collapsed, causing an abrupt sea level jump. This sent a catastrophic inflow of Mediterranean seawater over this natural dam and into the Black Sea. Almost 40,000 square miles of land were flooded. This significantly expanded the shoreline to both the north and the west. 200 times the flow of Niagara Falls poured through every day, and each day the level of the Black Sea rose several feet. And this continued for 300 days, creating the Black Sea as we know it today. Undersea surveys have revealed human-made structures. The remains of freshwater fish have also been found. The memory of this massive flood could have been passed down through the generations. Then it was finally documented in flood narratives found in both the Sumerian Epic of Gilgamesh and the Book of Genesis. So there's evidence of a local flood, which would have been the entire world to the people living there. But how about an actual global flood? A flood that affected every part of the earth? Skeptics claim the biblical flood could not have occurred because there's no actual evidence for a global flood. With all due respect, those skeptics are wrong. Many Jews, Christians, and Muslims believe the Great Flood is symbolic, an allegory to serve as a warning to mankind: be righteous or be destroyed. Others take the Bible literally and claim Noah was a real man who built a real boat to survive a real flood. What if they're both kind of wrong? What if there was a flood, but the man known as Noah is known by different names in different cultures? The ancient Sumerian Epic of Gilgamesh is the first flood story. Utnapishtim is warned by the god Ea about a great flood. He builds a large boat to save his family and animals from the deluge sent by the god Enlil. And Enlil was also
Anunnaki!
Right. In Hinduism, Manu, the first man, saves a fish who later warns him of a great flood. The fish instructs Manu to build a boat, and when the flood comes, the fish guides the boat to safety, carrying Manu, the 7 sages, and the seeds of life. In Native American Ojibwe mythology, a great flood occurs. Nanabojo, a cultural hero, survives by floating in a boat along with various animals. And there is an Australian Aboriginal myth, Tiddalik. A giant frog drinks all the water in the world, causing a drought. When he releases the water, it causes a great flood. A boat is used to survive this deluge. The Chinese have the Gunyu flood myth, which cleansed the earth.
Oh, wow.
The Inca myth tells of Viracocha, who floods the earth to destroy giants who have disobeyed his orders, sparing 2 to repopulate the earth.
Nephilim.
Dude, I'm sorry, but that's amazing. Like, the whole entire world has a story, and I've always thought that mythologies were, they're like people of that time explaining what happened. They just did it in, their language or whatever. They just told it in stories. Unless people were all having, like, sharing a mass hallucination, these things happened. That are, worldwide, you guys. A mass hallucination. This is like COVID. So unless you're telling, people did get sick and COVID was real. But, like, this is why I know God's real. That, like, for the whole entire world to have some sort of story about this and angels or, it's crazy, but it's unique and it's beautiful.
Could be. These stories go on and on. I specifically picked a few from cultures that are far away from each other, separated by oceans. In all, there are about 250 separate flood myths, but every story is eerily similar. For years, the similarities between these stories was considered coincidence. As people stepped forward to claim there really was a global flood, it was called pseudoscience. But as often happens, the only difference between pseudoscience and science is time.
I think that the evidence
it's a conspiracy
is consistent with what I will call a mega-scale pluvial event over North Africa. Most likely consistent with the Pleistocene-Holocene transition and the great flooding events that we know are well documented from other places in the world.
Huge tsunamis and torrential rain flooded the entire continent of Africa, reshaping the landscape. At the same time, on the other side of the world, the same event.
Here, what you have to visualize is a tsunami sweeping over the land that's over 1,000 feet deep. That's what happened here. And we know that because we can trace the high water marks on the hillsides are clearly left. The high water marks are clearly etched into the hillsides.
I'm Sora 2, the new AI in town.
We're not afraid. Artlist got them all.
Sora 2 is now on Artlist. You now have the most advanced AI video model on the market at your fingertips. Get incredible realism with fully integrated sound.
You keep the frame, I keep the story.
Build your own world with multi-shot stories and character consistency for any genre, all based on your prompt.
By the prompt, we rise!
So go to Artlist and start creating without limits.
Just before we continue, have you ever thought about how to rebuild civilization from scratch? No? Well, maybe you should. What's the first thing you'd reinvent? The wheel? Electricity? The printing press? Show those off to people. You'd be like, look at this. I made a wheel. People, what is this? How? It's so fast. Well, that's where the book, The Ultimate
Sides.
This is the Great Flood at the end of the Younger Dryas, where the ice caps suddenly melted and raised the sea level of the Earth by hundreds of feet. Anyone living near a coastline would be gone. Any settlements or cities below a certain elevation would be destroyed. The cause of this event is still being debated. Some believe a large asteroid impact or a series of impacts caused the sudden melting of the ice. Another theory, the one I believe, is that a massive solar flare hit the Earth. This would cause the ice to melt everywhere at once and explain why flood myths exist in every corner of the world. Whatever caused it, it was a catastrophic event. An event of biblical proportions, literally. But there were survivors. Maybe not just Noah. Maybe there were many Noahs. If an asteroid or solar flare hit, there wouldn't be much time to prepare, but there would be some time. Maybe groups of people anticipated the rising seas and built boats. Or, as some theorize, and many myths say, a being came down from the sky and warned people of the coming catastrophe. Those who heeded the warning would get to building boats right away. Those that survived passed down the story to their descendants. There could have been arks all over the world. Or maybe there really was only one ark. And if there was, where is it? Does it still exist? Can it be found? For that answer, we turn to the CIA.
So then this only do.
Searches for Noah's Ark have been occurring since antiquity. But it was the emergence of biblical archaeology in the 19th century which made the possibility of formal searches finally feasible. By the 1940s, expeditions were organized to follow up on potential leads. As for where the Ark came to rest, the book of Genesis gives us a hint.
The waters kept receding steadily from the earth, so that they had gone down by the end of the 150 days. On the 17th day of the 7th month, the Ark came to rest on one of the mountains of Ararat.
Historians and biblical scholars agree Ararat is the Hebrew name of Urartu, an Iron Age kingdom centered around Lake Van. This indicates the mountains of Ararat must be found in the eastern part of Turkey, near the border of Armenia, Iran, and Azerbaijan.
Azerbaijan.
What?
Azerbaijan. It's fun to say.
I guess.
Azerbaijan. It feels really good in the mouth. Azerbaijan.
Can I get back to this, please?
Go ahead. I ain't stopping you.
On June
Azerbaijan.
On June 17, 1949, the U.S. Air Force was photographing the mountains in eastern Turkey. On Mount Ararat was a rectangular barge-like structure west of the summit. This information was passed on to the CIA, who sent spy planes to analyze the object that they called the Ararat Anomaly. What they saw concerned them so much, they immediately classified it as secret. All subsequent photographs of the object taken in 1956, 73, 76, 1990, and 1992 were all classified. Over the next 45 years, all requests from within the government to see these photos were denied. The photos were never seen outside the CIA. In fact, for years, the CIA said the photos didn't exist at all. Thanks to the Freedom of Information Act, 6 frames from the 1949 footage were released to the public in 1995. By 1999, the CIA finally made their Noah's Ark files available to the public. And these documents proved that the search for Noah's Ark had reached the highest levels of the American government. Later, higher resolution photos show no barge. The 1949 picture was most likely a rock formation. Maybe. Probably. Maybe. But the Ararat anomaly is not the only structure that looks like Noah's Ark. There is another, a ship made of solid stone. In October 1959, Turkish Army Captain İlhan Darupınar was on a mapping mission for NATO. When he flew over Uzengeli, Turkey, he saw a strange formation and snapped a photo. When analyzing the film, he was shocked by what he saw. This structure looked a lot like a large ship. But what was a ship doing so far inland, at almost 7,000 feet above sea level? Then someone decided to measure it. It was 538 feet long. Now that's too big to be Noah's Ark. The Ark was 300 cubits long, so 450 feet. But wait, the length of the cubit changed over time. The length of the cubit that Moses used to build the Ark of the Covenant was different than the cubit Noah would have used. In Moses' time, a cubit was about 17 inches. Noah came many years before Moses. Noah was only 10 generations from Adam. Noah would have used the Egyptian royal cubit, a little over 20 inches. The Darupınar ship was exactly 300 royal cubits long and 50 royal cubits wide. This location is exactly where the Bible said Noah made landfall. Many people think Noah landed on Mount Ararat, but that's not what the Bible says. The Bible says the mountains of Ararat. Mount Ararat is a volcano and has erupted a few times since the days of Noah, as recently as the 1840s. In fact, geologists believe Mount Ararat is a relatively young mountain and probably wasn't there during the flood. The Darupınar location is only a few miles from Mount Ararat. A ground investigation was done. In the area was found about 30 drogue stones. A drogue stone is a heavy rock with a hole at the top. Ropes went through the holes. Then they were hung from the bottoms of ancient ships to stabilize them in rough seas. Why are there anchor stones in the mountains of Ararat? They're 200 miles from the closest ocean, but there they are. Also on the site, the ancient settlement of Nashwan was discovered. Most of the evidence has been lost to treasure hunters, but as recently as the 1970s, there were stone foundations of ancient homes still visible. This is believed to be the first settlement after the flood. The site is so important that there's a huge cemetery in the area. People from all over the world requested to be buried here. Not hundreds of people, not thousands. As many as 1 million people wanted to be buried at this location. Now all that was left was to examine the boat structure itself. Researchers looked for signs of animal remains. They looked for metal nails. They looked for petrified wood. They found all 3. After Darupınar discovered the site of the Ark, there was an earthquake in the area that exposed the hull of an ancient ship. Geologists visited the location and said it's a natural formation, and that was that. But in 1977, biblical researcher Ron Wyatt renewed interest in Noah's Ark.
We believe that God has preserved in the earth and under the seas remains of the major events discussed in the Bible. Physical remains.
Over a number of years, Wyatt brought geologists and other scientists to investigate the Darupınar site.
Oh, look at that. Oh, well, wait a minute.
Huh?
Wait, let me get a close-up of that.
Oh. One of them's mine, because I went and poured some water in there. I got it from over there.
Flakes of iron that are coming
It's
out,
just
like right
water.
there. There and there. Huh.
Metal detectors were brought in and calibrated to search for iron. Not only did they find iron, they found it at regular intervals, indicating something man-made.
Do you want a measuring tape to measure these things, how far apart they are?
The on-site team ran tape along the ground where iron was detected. It was a ship.
That's pretty cool.
With AI,
You can create any character you want in seconds.
This used to require huge Hollywood budgets.
Ron Wyatt found a metallic object next to the Ark, which had the shape of a large rivet. It was surrounded by what appeared to be an equally large metal washer. Part of the metal was tested. It contained a man-made metal alloy. Ground-penetrating radar, or GPR, was used in the 1980s. Regular lines were found beneath the surface.
All right, the lines are there. The lines are there.
This also indicates man-made construction.
This data does not represent natural geology. It's a man-made structure.
This is the west bulkhead.
All right.
That was over there. And he walked easterly. Here we start getting the longitudinal bulkheads. Here, here, here, here, here, here, here, here.
As a scientist, do you really honestly believe that you have been on the remains of Noah's Ark?
I have no doubt in my mind. This has to be a man-made structure. It's full of metal. Metal has a regular pattern. The size of the thing, and the shape of the thing it's almost certainly a large boat.
A small excavation was done on the side of the structure. Wyatt's team discovered lines of mud that were lighter in color than the surrounding soil. He believed these to be beams from the ship. As recently as 2014, 3D scans were taken of the location. Not only was the shape of a ship found, it had 3 levels, just as the Ark should. The 3D scan also confirmed the dimensions of the object: 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, 30 cubits tall. A perfect match. During one demonstration for the Turkish government, Ron Wyatt pointed to an object seen on radar near the surface. He was given permission to dig it up. It was a piece of petrified wood, deck timber. Other artifacts were found at the site: more petrified wood, pieces of metal, cat hair, even fossilized animal dung. Researchers found evidence of the fence around Noah's house, where he raised livestock.
You can see the system of fences here that appears to have been a system of corrals and pens.
They found the altar he used to make sacrifices to God. They even found the grave of Noah's wife and a stone sarcophagus. Almost immediately after the discovery, grave robbers stole her body and allegedly sold it on the black market for millions of dollars. All this evidence was so compelling that the Turkish government officially claimed this was the place where Noah's Ark landed. There's even a visitor center, and the area is open to the public. But if the Ark really has been found, what does that mean? Does that mean everything in the Bible is true? Were there angels, watchers? Were there Nephilim? Is the earth really much younger than we thought? And my big question is God the angry, vengeful God we read about in the Old Testament?
No.
There's evidence of the Ark. There's evidence of the flood. If God punished humanity for being wicked, we should be very careful. We might want to try to be better people. We should be more...
I actually think there was more than just one. And, like, the way that it sounds, it seems like there's more than just one. And that one just happens to be a good one. And other ones visit here and they're bad ones. That's how I see it. I've always thought that way.
Kind, more honest, more forgiving. God already destroyed humanity once. We're his second try. And you know what they say? Third time's a charm.
No, don't say that. Okay, alright, now...
Noah's Ark, the Great Flood, the Book of Enoch, the Watchers, the Nephilim. We covered a lot today, even aliens. But is any of this true? Well, let's work backwards because that's the easiest way to do this. Ron Wyatt was not an archaeologist. He was a nurse by trade. He claimed to have all the requirements for a master's and a PhD in antiquities. That wasn't true. He claimed to be a Korean War veteran. That wasn't true. He claimed to have discovered the Ark of the Covenant, but he didn't.
I'm always amazed, and again, I don't hate Ron Wyatt. I don't even really dislike him, to tell you the truth. I dislike what he's doing. realize that he's deceived, in my opinion, thousands of people.
He said he found the ancient cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. He didn't.
Ordinarily, I don't say anything without I can prove it, because it's rather embarrassing to make a statement and somebody say, well, can you show me some evidence? And I can't.
He claimed he found the location where Moses parted the Red Sea. He even said he found evaporated blood of Jesus Christ. He had the blood rehydrated and examined. He said Jesus' blood had 24 chromosomes, 23 to form a baby, and 1 from the Holy Spirit, which proves the virgin birth.
So all of his physical characteristics were determined by his mother's side of the family, her autosomes. His maleness was determined